It's Wednesday, November 11th. I'm your host, Jason Moser, and on this week's Wildcard Wednesday show, we're talking fitness. More specifically, we'll dig into the companies changing the face of fitness in the 21st century and what the future holds even post-pandemic. Joining me this week, he's the head analyst with MyWallSt, where their aim is to help you own your financial future through investing. And you can learn more about them at mywallst.com. It's Mr. Rory Carron. Rory, thanks for joining us.
Hey, buddy.
How's everything going on your side of the pond?
Great. How's things in America? All quiet, I assume?
Oh, no news here. I mean, it's all just sort of the status quo. Everything's just kind of normal. Yeah, it obviously it's a lot of headlines flowing here this time of year, and it'll be interesting to see how all of this shakes out. But hey, at the end, we just hope democracy prevails, and we can all put one foot in front of the other, right?
Well, we're all rooting for you.
Well, I appreciate that. We're rooting for us too. Well, I mean, speaking of big headlines and news and sort of, we're going to steer away from the politics of it all. But I mean, this has been a very big news week. Earlier on, obviously, the headline dropped that Pfizer had come up with some very positive vaccine news. And this obviously sent the markets into an interesting direction, right? I mean, we saw a reaction where the word rotation started being thrown around more and more as sort of these stay-at-home stocks maybe became a little bit more out of favor. Some tech in general perhaps became a little bit more out of favor. Maybe some more money was flowing into cyclicals that were seen as maybe more of a value play. But I'm curious to know, I mean, you guys are in Ireland, for our listeners that don't know, but obviously you follow our markets here with MyWallSt as well. I mean, how are you and the team viewing all of this stuff going on right now in regard to the pandemic, in regard to the vaccine, stay-at-home stocks? What are you guys talking about these days?
Yeah, I mean, I recall that story from, I don't know if you've heard of Joseph Kennedy, the Kennedy paterfamilias who was a shoe shine, started giving him investing advice, and he saw that as a sign of like mania.
I do recall that. Yeah.
Do you know that story? When my phone starts getting messages from my friends about investing, I know something big has gone on. I know mania has hit the markets, and Monday was definitely one of those days. It was a joyous moment, wasn't it? And I think everyone wants to be really optimistic about it, but in one way we had the scientists telling us, we still need to remain cautious, and then you looked at the market, it was like the Age of Aquarius chorus line. People were just it was going kind of mad, and the news from Pfizer was all positive, but doesn't look like things are going to end anytime soon, does it? It's going to be a slow process, and I think I saw a survey once that half the population of America don't even want to take a vaccine, which, given how politicized it's been, it's hard to blame them, I suppose.
Yeah. It feels like it's a shame there's the political angle to that. I mean, I guess there's maybe at least some air of caution there, and folks feeling like maybe a vaccine was developed so quickly. Is it going to really be safe? I mean, I understand all of those concerns. I mean, hopefully, that's just a survey, and it's kind of like, the election polls here, right? I mean, it says one thing, but really, in reality, it turns out to be something very different. But yeah, it does feel like with all of that good news, I mean, it is worth remembering. I mean, we still have a ways to go here, and exercising caution is clearly the prudent move. When you guys are looking at, I mean, this whole stay-at-home stock phenomenon, we'll talk about fitness specifically here in just a few minutes. But looking from a little bit of a higher view, right, a bigger picture beyond just fitness. I mean, we've seen a lot of really good businesses that they've benefited from the tailwinds this year of this move towards more digitization, right? Move towards this digital economy. But the selling that we've seen here over the past few days in some of these plainly very good businesses, I mean, I'm looking at everything from Wayfair to Etsy to Teladoc Health to, you insert name of SaaS company here, right? I mean,
yeah.
It's not what we try to explain to our listeners and our members. It certainly is not a condemnation of the business. It's simply the psychology of the market, it seems, on any given day, which is tough to predict.
I mean, like the really great news that came out on Monday was that no one's ever going to have to shop online again.
Oh yeah,
because we all hate doing that.
Yeah, because we all want to drive to the store.
Yeah, I mean, like no, I mean, never mind that e-commerce penetration basically kind of jumped 10 years ahead of the trend line over the last 6 months. Last I clocked it was something like 36% in the US, up from 16% pre-lockdown. And yeah, of course, the next few months, you're going to see the streets of New York, Chicago, LA are just going to be strewn with abandoned Peloton bikes because, in a post-COVID world, no one's going to want to work out at home anymore.
We're all sick of it.
I mean, jokes aside, look, of course, a lot of these businesses got a huge boost from the pandemic and from the fact that we were all stuck at home and we didn't know how long we were going to be stuck at home at. And some of the valuations, were getting quite ahead of themselves. And this is just a kind of reset a little bit, I think it's nothing to be too worried about. There's still great businesses and that penetration, when you think about how many people have now signed on to things like Etsy and signed on to things like Amazon and Wayfair and put in all their credit card details and organize all their shipping information, that stuff's not going away. That's gonna remain. That's a habit forming moment, and I think they're gonna benefit long term out of this totally.
I think you're right. I think it's accelerated a lot of habits, and folks who maybe were on the fence before, this sort of helped them make that decision, which I think ultimately is a good thing. And I don't know that we'll see that changing anytime soon. Let's talk about fitness specifically because fitness has come a long way in a very short period of time. Technology has not only given us more ways to stay active, but more ways to keep track. And that really, I think, encourages people even to stay more active. I mean, once something that you can measure, I mean, it becomes more clear the benefits. And clearly more people are getting it done at home these days. So where do you see the future for connected fitness versus the gym? I mean, is the gym, do you feel like the gym's going the way of the movie theater?
Yeah, well, like my first experience of connected fitness or was Nike Plus. I don't know if you remember that. It was like
I do remember that. Yeah.
You bought a special sneaker that had a little pocket and you put a USB size key into it and it kind of measured your steps and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And that was kind of my first experience of it. And then we had a few years where there was kind of a big movement in it, but it still felt really analog. You had Map My Run, you had those heart monitors you could buy and MyFitnessPal, and even kind of the early fitness trackers. It kind of seemed very much like digital fitness, but not necessarily connected fitness. Because so much of fitness comes down to motivation. A computer program telling you to walk an extra 1,000 steps, it's a useful nudge, but it's really nothing compared to being motivated by a human who's using humor and empathy to get you over the last mile. And that experience makes you feel part of a group. It makes you feel part of something more. And one of the things I love about connected fitness as we have it now is that it totally flips the old gym model on its head. The most profitable gym members are the ones that never show up, and that's actually most gym members. I think I think the average like 82% of gym members don't go regularly. Whereas connected fitness, because of the subscription model, it's all about engaging people in fitness. The more engaged you are, the more likely you're going to continue paying for that subscription. And I saw a survey from TD Ameritrade. This was now back in July, where it said 59% of Americans didn't plan to renew their gym membership after COVID.
Wow.
So, people, and look, that's not all going to connected fitness. I don't know about you, but I've been spending an awful lot more time outdoors since the pandemic hit, going for walks, going for swims. But a lot of places you just can't do that. It's going to be hard in New York and Chicago and in the next couple of months. I know you guys are having kind of Indian summer there at the moment, but when it gets cold, those opportunities aren't there for people. And the numbers are all heading in the right direction for this business. For all and it's kind of moving towards, it's kind of following the gaming industry slightly as well. Gaming's going in a kind of a 2.0 where now it's a lot more of social media. Social media has an awful lot of for all its negative effects, it can have positive aspects as well. And, there's definitely a kind of support network being created around these connected fitness devices. An awful lot of positivity in the kind of connected fitness groups that are coming up on Facebook. And it's a lot, I think things have changed quite a lot in terms of fitness is not so much about getting the six pack anymore. It's about being healthy, feeling energized, wanting to be out there and things on Instagram where people are, going out and hiking and cycling and just being outdoors more and being more active more, I think is a positive over the long run. And you know, like the old gym equipment that you used to get the reputation of the laundry rack, you know, and I definitely had some as well. I had, you know, the barbells back when I was a teenager, and they definitely worked as a clothes horse for quite a while. But these new offerings are like, they're providing so much more. You know, there's fitness training, there's social interaction, there's a gamification to the whole thing, and it really is all about engagement. And I think when you look at the companies, you're seeing some crazy engagement numbers coming out.
Yeah, you know, I'm glad. You know, I'm glad you mentioned that difference between device and community, because I think that's where a lot of the advantage does lie. I mean, like, I don't own a Fitbit or an Apple Watch or anything like that. I feel like if I had one on my wrist and it was buzzing, telling me to get up and walk, a couple of times of that, and I think I'm throwing that thing in the trash. Like, I just don't want to sit there and be bothered, right? I'm connected enough as it is with my phone. But the difference there, I think, you know, when you're a part of a community, there's something else there, right? I mean, there's a kinship there. And I think that leads us into, you know, we wanted to talk about Peloton today because I think Peloton is one of the companies that's really, you know, really exploiting this idea that community can help motivate people to stay more fit or to exercise or to incorporate at least some sense of fitness into their lifestyle that maybe they didn't have before. And I'll be the first to say, I mean, when Peloton went public, I mean, I don't want to say I guess I was skeptical. I mean, I wasn't necessarily bullish or bearish. I was just kind of maybe on the fence with it, thinking, I just don't know how big of an opportunity that is. But clearly they're doing something right. Their latest quarterly results seem like a little bit of a mixed bag, but I would say positive overall. And it sounds like they just inked a very interesting new partnership as well. So what's your impression of how Peloton is doing these days?
Yeah, Peloton's a company I've liked for an awful long time, like way pre-IPO. I don't know what I saw in that business, but I saw something in that business where I just thought this is going to be a great business going forward. And one of the things I always loved about it was that people got so stuck on the pricing.
Yeah.
I think that's it's become one of my kind of new novel bullish signals. Whenever you hear someone say no one's going to pay that much for that, you know, that's how many times we heard that and then seen, you know, the iPhone be a huge success, you know, or the numerous other examples. And, you know, you break, you know, the pricing is a thing, but, you know, it just takes a calculator to break down that it's actually not that expensive. You know, if you were to take the bike and the subscription and talk about the installments that they give, I think it works out something like $100 a month or something like that. Whereas, and if you're using it, if you're getting the engagement that they're getting, which is like people using it 20 times a month, that's like $5 a session. SoulCycle's charging like $35 a session in New York. So the pricing argument, I think, falls down quite a bit. But what I really like about it is the use of the scale. You know, like there's one of their trainers, a girl called Robin Arzen. She has 600,000 followers on Instagram. She's one of their big stars. And as you just said, I mean, they just announced Beyonce has signed a multi-year deal with them. I haven't verified this, but I just saw on Twitter 104,000 people joined for the first fitness class that she hosted. That just happened this morning. And
wow.
And look, no other gym is ever going to be able to offer that. You know, this is harnessing the internet to make the impossible possible through scale. You know, and that's because they're able to amortize those costs over the 1.3 million subscribers they have.
Yep.
You know, and we look, and there's a lot of similarities to Netflix. I feel, you know, we think about Netflix. Why is Netflix potentially going to win this streaming war? Because their cost per subscriber is so much lower. You know, they can pay out the big bucks, and that's what Peloton has now. Peloton has that scale where they can offer the absolute best experience. And similar to Netflix, you know, Netflix was never really about the shows, was it? It was about control. You know, it was about having that control over your life. Right. And when you think about the founder story of Peloton, it was built for control as well. You know, the founder had just had 2 kids. He was working very hard. He'd gotten into the SoulCycle thing, and he wanted to be able to maintain that and being able to bring it into the home and control when you do it. You know, that's such a powerful thing for people. And and it's proven out. There's JP Morgan estimated that they would hit 3.6 million connected fitness subs by 2024. They're estimating 2.2 just this year.
Wow.
This thing is growing like wildfire, and obviously COVID's had a big impact on it. Their revenue grew 232% in the last quarter. That's not normally what you see if these are strange times. Yeah. But the engagement figures are still so high. They're getting 20.7 monthly workouts per subscriber, and that means that people are going back to these things day after day. They're not becoming the clothes horse that we think of when we think of home gym equipment, and they've got sky high retention rates. 92% retention, and it's really becoming a platform. I think the focus on the pricing is the hardware argument, and they still are very much a hardware business. Don't get me wrong,
right?
But it's that recurring revenue that's coming down the end line when those those cohorts are building year after year. That's going to be really important. It's going to build that platform, and they can do so much more with that. They've gotten into apparel. There's so many more avenues they can go down with rowers, and I think they're really going to become kind of like the. I hate to use the term Apple or Amazon of anything, but I think in terms of branding, they're definitely going to become kind of the Apple of fitness.
It feels that way, doesn't it? I mean, it's really worth remembering that this is still. I mean, this is a story that's still so young. I mean, they're so early in their development. And one of those things that we look for in great investments is optionality, the chance to do more with what you've got. And they've done such a good job of building that brand. The brand awareness for Peloton is it's top of mind, I think, for anybody who really thinks fitness these days. And so, yeah, I mean, I certainly can understand concerns. Maybe the hardware, the exercise equipment is expensive, but again, I mean, you look at that over the longer stretch of time. I mean, that doesn't necessarily mean it's always going to be that way. And I mean, if you don't think that they're going to be developing new equipment, different types of equipment, then I would say I would disagree with that. I think that's clearly what they're going to do. And fitness can go so many ways. And then to your point, the retention rates are just, those are really phenomenal. I think a lot of that has to do with the commitment that you make when you buy the equipment. And then also, we know that acquiring customers is expensive work. And when you've acquired that level of subscriber base and you have that type of retention rate, it's just that much more difficult for competition to come in there and encroach. It's that much more difficult for competition to come in there and really take that share from you. So it really does feel like Peloton, there's just a lot of good things they're doing. Now, on the flip side of that, you mentioned Apple, and so we have to talk about Apple. This is clearly the elephant in the room in regard to virtually anything these days. Recently, Apple, held their event, the event that they held, sans the iPhone, right? The event that they excluded the iPhone from. They talked about all these different offerings, and Apple One, I guess it was, that platform. But part of that is a fitness offering, and I'll be the first to say that, a company, just because they're huge and they have all of the resources in the world, that doesn't mean they can automatically just go in there and win. We see plenty of examples where large, well-capitalized competitors try to get into a particular market, and it's a lot more difficult than they thought. But what do you think about Apple's fitness offering, and what is their opportunity in the space?
Yeah, I mean, so I called Peloton the Apple of fitness about a week before that that event, and my Twitter feed was just flooded with people going, "I think someone else wants to be the Apple of fitness."
Right. Well, but I mean, I think it's going to be far more difficult for Apple to actually be able to compete with Peloton. I think that just because it's Apple doesn't mean they're going to win. I don't think they can get in there and just do it.
Yeah, I mean, and I heard the term Peloton killer used plenty of times, and actually, there's a concept I stole from David Gardner. You might remember this one. He wrote a great piece about when Amazon launched Handmade by Amazon, I think, and the USA Today actually called it an Etsy killer, and the stock dropped. It was destroyed. It went down like 75% over the course of the year. And so I always like to see that. I always love to see a headline, anything along in kind of the template of big company launches small company killer. That's a great bullish signal to me now. I really love that piece by David all those years ago.
Yeah, that's a good one.
But yeah, I mean, because what it signals is that the smaller company's onto something great, right?
Sure.
Apple has looked at Peloton and gone, hold on, why aren't we in that business?
Yep.
My immediate response to Fitness Plus was that, in my opinion, it's not really a serious competitor to Peloton. There's a little bit of crossover with Peloton's digital app, but the Fitness Plus doesn't provide live classes.
Yeah.
Essentially, what they've done is they've rebranded the kind of free workout videos that you find on YouTube, which is
sure,
and charge you for them.
That was my impression. To me, it seemed like it was just YouTube with an Apple brand stamped on it.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's very limited crossover between the Fitness Plus and Peloton's connected fitness subscription, definitely, because what people are paying for there is the integration with the in-home devices. They're paying for the live instruction, and they're paying for that vast network of like-minded enthusiasts.
Yeah.
But what I will say about Fitness Plus now is, since September 2015, Apple's revenues increased by kind of somewhere around 17-20%. However, Apple's market cap has almost quadrupled in that same time period.
Oh yeah.
And how did that happen? Back in 2015, they were getting a price to earnings multiple of 11. Today, it's something like 35. And the way they've done that, the most is they've done something brilliant. The most accretive thing a company can do today is move from a transactional revenue model to a recurring revenue model.
Oh yeah.
That exploits this fundamental flaw in humans' minds, which is that inability to register time. And so Apple's greatest innovation in 10 years hasn't been launching new products. It's been growing that recurring revenue from what was really low single digits to now 23% of its recurring revenue. So
yeah,
so that's where Fitness Plus comes in, and that's why I think they're doing it. It's probably going to be a worker for them, but it is surprising, quite frankly, to hear Apple bulls make the argument that Apple is going to win because they have the just good enough product. Apple doesn't want it there. Apple wants to be the Peloton. That's what they want. So I mean, I'm surprised they didn't buy them out earlier, and I've said that about Apple so many times before. There's so many times you look at a business and you go, why didn't Apple just buy that? And I'm sure they've got kind of some grander plan down the line, but I think Peloton's pretty safe against Apple's fitness offering at the moment.
I tend to agree. I mean, I think, for all of the efforts that they, could potentially make in that space, it to me, it really does. It seems like it's just meant to be almost. The bigger story to me is Apple One. It's not Fitness Plus. I mean, Fitness Plus, along with like Apple News and Apple Music, they come along with all of these little, these services. In that way, they can take these services and lump them into a value-sized offering where they can really focus on getting that recurring revenue, that subscription, which could come at a reasonable price. It's stuff that scales really well. They don't have to put terribly too much thought into it, and it gives them that recurring revenue stream. It doesn't require as much attention, right? I mean, they're not doing the same thing that Peloton's doing. Call me when Apple is actually selling equipment and building a community like Peloton's building. Then it feels like maybe you're talking about a true competitor. That's why I've always felt like Apple Fitness Plus is just going to be one more little offering in that overall subscription in their goal to really try to build out that recurring revenue. And so I mean, it probably does okay. I mean, there are plenty of Apple folks out there that'll subscribe to it, I'm sure, but I don't think it makes as meaningful as an impact to the exercise, to the fitness community, as something like Peloton does.
No, it's all about the bundle, isn't it? I think it was the CEO of Netscape said business is all about bundling and unbundling.
Well, it's so funny. Like we're watching the whole, the video streaming. I mean, that's a great example there. We were, for so long, we were raised on this bundle with cable, and then Netflix came along with the internet, and all of a sudden, the bundle is bad, and you can just get everything you want on Netflix. And now all of a sudden, you've got all of these competitors, and if you want to watch all of the shows that you like the most, you have to have multiple services. So then it starts to become a little bit more like the bundle again. So it's funny to watch it come and go, but it's I don't know that there's ever one distinct direction it goes. It really is all about just the consumer and finding what the consumer wants. And I tend to think that when you have a company like Peloton that's devoted towards one specific thing and doing it really well, you don't want to just sit there and say, oh, well, because Apple's bigger and has all of these resources, they're going to be able to displace, this smaller incumbent just because they have all of the resources. It's far more involved than that.
Yeah, absolutely. Goal dilution. Look it up. It's great. It's a great theory that you can always throw out there when someone makes the big company take over the small company arguments.
I love that. Well, let's talk about another company that's gotten a lot bigger here over the past several years. This is a company, to me, it's just really impressed over the last several years. It's Lululemon. And I mean, when you look at what Lululemon has been through, I mean, leadership issues, questions regarding growth, expensive products. Will consumers really buy it? Limited market opportunity, perhaps. Listen, this company has responded on virtually every front. And over the last 5 years, the stock is up over 550%. I mean, it appears now that they too are finding a way into this connected fitness opportunity.
Yeah, man. I mean, when I started at MyWallSt, we had 3 sports apparel companies in the showroom. I think you can probably guess what they were. It was Nike, Under Armour, and Lululemon. They were picked by our CEO Emmett, who used to write for you guys, I think,
sure,
all those years ago. I mean, if you, I'd never even heard of Lululemon back then. If you told me that this kind of niche Canadian yoga maker was going to be the big winner out of those 3, I'd have laughed at you. I really would have. You know,
we were all kind of chuckling at that point. None of us, I think, really bought into it.
And like, as you said, it's amazing what they've been able to accomplish with no management. Pretty much, this is like one of those businesses that just runs itself. It seems
that way.
But I mean, the surprising thing with Lululemon, I suppose, and when I first looked at it, it just looked like it was just one of those, apparel companies, horizontally integrated, was probably going to get bullied like by Nike or by Under Armour or by Adidas, any other of the sports apparel companies. Just, it's just make yoga gear. If people want yoga gear, we'll make yoga gear, no problem. But what we found is Lululemon is so much more. It's a vertically integrated business. They control absolutely everything from the fabrics they use. They make their own fabrics all the way down to the in-shop experience. And so we saw, back when the sports apparel wholesalers or retailers were getting shut out down in, was it like 2017 when Sports Authority closed?
Oh yeah.
Nike was getting hammered, Adidas was getting hammered, Under Armour was getting hammered. Lululemon didn't even blink. They were just fine. They had the direct consumer business, they had their stores, they had their concessions here and there, but really they controlled the entire customer journey. And that's why I think that this company is doing so well, and they've built themselves out as a real lifestyle brand. And they made a very interesting recent acquisition, a company called Mirror, which is, as you'd expect, just a mirror. It's a mirror that you hang up on your wall, and you push a button, and suddenly it's a kind of portal where you can interact with an instructor and he'll check your form, and you can get into interactive classes similar to that Peloton. And kind of what I liked, my instant reaction to this was like, what's holding back all those rich New Yorkers in their apartments from getting a Peloton? It's space, isn't it? Like that's the main thing. People can't keep these big bikes or big treadmills in their apartments because it's so crammed. But so I really like this idea of just putting something that would be hanging on your wall anyway, and turning it into a digital portal to do this kind of stuff. I mean, they paid $500 million for it. That sounds like a lot of money for a company that's only been around for 2 years, I think. But this company makes money. They were slated to surpass 100 million in revenue by the end of this year, and they've got a similar offering to Peloton. It's a big upfront cost. I think it's $1,500 to buy the device, or $42 a month, and then it's something like $600 a year for kind of the premium subscription package. But what I kind of like about the Lululemon connection with it is that it's, like I said, it's more than just a piece of workout equipment. It's a portal, and for a company that's so obsessed with being directly tied to its customers, this is great. This is the Amazon Alexa of connected fitness. This is getting inside the home.
Yeah,
and the founder of Mirror had a kind of different idea than Peloton did. He kind of saw it as a platform more than anything else, and he kind of thought that other companies would be able to come in and offer it. So other brands, Core Power Yoga or Pure Beret, would be able to come in and they'd be able to offer classes through this device. And I'm not entirely sure which way Peloton or Lululemon's going to go with that. I don't know whether they'd want to, like, as a company that tries to control everything so much, I think they'd probably like to bring all that stuff in-house. But moreover, now they've got a place to sell to their user, that end sell. They're able, people be able to buy stuff through this thing, and that's why I think it's a really interesting acquisition for them. It's not going to make a dent in their revenue for quite a while, I suspect, but it's all about continuing that direct to consumer journey that they've been on for so many years. And really interesting purchase. Really, really excited about the ambition of that business in terms of expanding itself out to a new opportunity and getting in here at a time when connected fitness is all the rage. They have competitors that mirror product. There's another one called Tonal that I see advertised a lot, and that they've raised a lot of money recently. But I think it's not a zero sum game here. I think a lot of people are looking at these devices now and thinking we need to get one of those things. Whichever one it is, we need something in the home that's going to keep us fit and healthy.
Yeah, and it extends the relationship. I like the idea. I've thought about this as just I run the augmented reality and beyond service here that focuses on immersive technology. And the first thing I thought of when I saw this acquisition, I was like, immediately I can see someone exercising with Mirror and then shopping. Right. I mean, all it takes is just a little augmented reality technology to let people try, that Lululemon gear on, in Mirror. So you're in your house, your home, and I mean, you can try things on. You can see what they look like. You can see what it looks like on you. I mean, you can make those purchases. Like you said, it's a portal to something far more than just exercise. It's commerce. It's exercise. It could be. It's a long lasting relationship. There's certainly a lot of potential there with that. I think it was a good acquisition.
Think even broader, man. Think about like the instructor saying, you know what, whoever puts in the best effort today gets Lululemon vouchers. How about that? This is the opportunity that you have when you get inside the home. Amazon knows it. They've been working on this Alexa stuff for quite a while. They know what they're doing, and Lululemon's going, you know what, we could be in the home too. And I think this is how they're getting in there.
I think that's going to work out well. Now let's wrap up the discussion today. We don't have to get too terribly in depth with this one, but I did want to get your take on Google and Fitbit because, back in 2019, November of 2019, Google announced it was going to acquire Fitbit. Now, Fitbit, obviously a business that a lot of potential when they went public. You could see what they were trying to do. It didn't work out quite so well for them. They had a lot of challenges. It's difficult being in hardware. You have to come up with that software to really create the relationship. And we've seen other businesses that have succeeded where Fitbit fell short. Maybe this Google acquisition helps in that regard, right? I mean, maybe it helps them scale that fitness platform. I don't know yet. But to me, the interesting part is, the deal was announced in November 2019. Here we are today. The deal still hasn't closed, and regulators have now pushed the date back to January 2021. What do you think the chances are this deal actually doesn't happen at this point?
I think there's a chance. I definitely think there's a chance.
They're all on the radar now.
They are, aren't they? It's one of those things where you think about Google buying a business for, what is it, 2.5 billion? It seems such small fry, but then, the whole point of these antitrust hearings was looking at those smaller acquisitions, wasn't it? It was looking at, buying Android for a couple of 100 million. Now look what it is. Buying YouTube for $1 billion. Now look where that is. So it was all about going backwards and saying, where did we make the mistakes in the past, and are we making them again right now? So yeah, I think there is a good chance it doesn't go through. And you know what? I have to be honest. When I saw that purchase price, as much as Fitbit's had its problems, I do think they were getting it for a steal. That seemed like a very low price to be paying for a company that has, you see Fitbits everywhere. I've got a Fitbit. I really like it. I will say that they've had challenges with the software though, and with challenges with the platform. I remember I bought a new one recently, and they gave me, I think it was 3 months free of Fitbit Premium. And about 3 months later, I got an email saying my trial was over, and I went, "Oh, what? I was on Fitbit Premium."
Oh yeah, I didn't realize that.
I think I looked at it once or twice, but it just wasn't anywhere near what you were getting from the other big players. So yeah, fitness. We talked about Fitness Plus. Fitness Plus is probably going to impact Fitbit more than it's going to impact Peloton. But yeah, look, we'll see how that one works out. I still think it's amazing. We talk about connected fitness and where we've come. It's the fact that we have all internet connections, the fact that we have fitness trackers, the fact that we have a pedometer in our pocket, every single one of us now. That's the kind of infrastructure that we needed to make this stuff kind of really available to everyone. And it's just a really exciting space. I think it's going to be one of the most exciting kind of industries. Peloton's kind of defined a new category now, but it's going to be one of the most interesting places to watch over the next couple of years, especially with COVID. Depending on whether COVID continues or whether it's over, I still think there's some great businesses out there and great products for people to own and to try.
Well, remember, you can always reach out to us on Twitter at MF Industry Focus. You can drop us an email at industryfocus@fool.com. Make sure to follow MyWallSt and Rory on Twitter. That's at MyWallStHQ and at RoryCarron. Rory, I think that's going to do it for us this week. Thanks so much for taking the time to join us. Look forward to having you back on the show here real soon.
Anytime, my friend. Anytime. Always a pleasure.
All right, but all the best to everybody there in Ireland. As always, people on the program may have interest in the stocks they talk about, and the Motley Fool may have formal recommendations for or against. So don't buy or sell stocks based solely on what you hear. Thanks, as always, to Tim Sparks for putting the show together for us. For Rory Carron, I'm Jason Moser. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.